Hello again. So on to competence 1.1.3. Discern, assess and meet the needs of individuals displaying unhelpful manifestations of spirituality. And as ever, we're working from left to right on here. And this particular micro module starts with you thinking about some unhelpful manifestations of spirituality. See if you can think of some. And also to think about what you can do. This one's slightly different from the last two in that we're going to look at the definition at the end. So it's about the abnormal here, isn't it? Unhelpful manifestations. So it's about manifestations of spirituality that might not be helpful to the individual. And so we need to identify some things that we can do and also some things that we can, identify in the first place. So as usual, there's a paper associated with it, but it's not maybe the paper that you might expect, but it will hopefully lead us to be able to define unhelpful manifestations at the end. And the reason for that is because if we look at what the document says, here we are. So this is 1.1.3, and this is the behaviour expected, that healthcare chaplains will be intuitive, empathic, and able to critique different types of evidence. So that to me is about competence. It's about understanding your own limits, understanding and developing yourself as agent. But in terms of knowledge, it's also about identifying when certain manifestations of spirituality might not be particularly helpful. And so maybe go to your library and see if you can find some of these papers, like the relationship between negative spiritual beliefs. So the idea that someone can have negative spiritual beliefs is useful to get you started on this. And also, if you can think more widely, more culturally, you can think about how people consider evil and maybe look at it from a cultural perspective like that. The idea is to have a broader idea of unhelpful manifestations. Now, my knowledge of Islam is not great, but I know, for example, that an example of negative spirituality for them is withdrawal, withdrawing from the material world, becoming a hermit. That to them is a negative manifestation. It ties into what we've been talking about being alone in the previous one. But that in itself is obviously unhelpful because it's antisocial. It's not helpful for the rest of humanity. And so there's a lot of these types of unhelpful manifestations to give you a clue to start with. But to finish off, you'll be then looking at one attempt to actually identify a set of criteria that would be able to be applied to people to prioritise chaplains visiting them. And the idea of that is to show you that might not necessarily incorporate some of this. Okay, so I shall leave you to explore that in detail yourself. Have a look at those papers and see where you end up. Okay, see you at the next one.